So today I want to talk to you about matching audio.
Every moment is a teachable moment.
There will be times in your career where you might have a client who will ask you for a revision or a pickup, in which case you are going to have to infuse that pickup or that new line or that revision seamlessly into audio that you've already recorded. Now, this could be audio that you recorded 2 hours ago. It could be last week. It could be last year. It could be a few years. And you will be required to match your audio as close as possible. So there's a few tips that I have that can help you to do that. First of all, if you've got something that's a couple years old, hopefully your voice print hasn't actually changed. If it has, you're going to have to make sure that you have those original files. And by the way, make sure that you keep an archive of your audio files so that you can always go back and listen to them so you can hear your performance. And you're going to have to match that performance as close as possible. So number one is that make sure that you have that archive and you have it somewhere available so that you can go back and listen to what you did in the first place. Do you have the same studio setup? Do you have the same mic setup? Do you have the same distance from your microphone? And so a lot of times you may or may not remember the job. And so for me, I like to label my files or make sure that I label my notes in some form that tells me what mic I used, as well as what date it was recorded so that I can understand a lot about that file when I simply look at the file name. So I know that, I remember, I was in my new studio here. And so I know that I was using a 416, or was I using my TLM 103, or was I using a different mic? So that can be embedded in your file name. Next thing would be, if that's a few years old, make sure that you can duplicate that voice. And that really comes to knowing yourself, knowing your performance, knowing that for this particular job, I had a particular voice style or a voice imprint. And for me, it's a whole lot easier to just have one or two styles that I have in my pocket that I can just pull out and replicate easily. So for me, let's say for my telephony work or my e-learning work, or really any work that I do that might be long format, I have my bright Ann voice, my bubbly Ann voice, and then I also might have a more serious lower register voice. And for that, I've kind of go back and forth between 2 or 3 voices that I've really practiced on, and I really understand who I am in all of those segments or in all of those voices. And for each of those voices, I am as authentic and I am as Ann as I can be. And that's what makes it really easy to replicate that voice and to match that voice, because there's nothing worse than actually having to do a revision and then all of a sudden in that beautiful file you hear, oh my gosh, that's either a different room, it's either a different mic, or it's a completely different sound, which could be it's louder, or my voice wasn't at the same pitch, or maybe I was faster. And so you really have to work on seamlessly integrating that voice into the file. So number one, make sure that you are archiving all of your audio so you can get back to that original audio. Make sure that you can listen to it. Make sure you know what was your studio setup, what was your microphone, what was your, and what time of day was it? Because sometimes we have different voices, right? In the very early morning, I have a much lower voice register. If I don't really remember at what time it was, usually there's a timestamp on this file, which is great. Then it's hard to tell. So if you can then go back to one of your voices, and I say always have like 2 or 3 voices in your pocket that are always very authentically you and very authentically something that you can go back to and replicate over and over and over again. I always place my cursor right before or right after the original take, listen to the original take, and then punch and roll the new revision right on top of it. So that way I know the energy from the line before it, and I know the energy of the line coming after it. So I make sure that I am punching and rolling, listening to what happened before and listening to what happens after. Make sure that you save this file as a new file. I always like to call my file by this original name and then dash revision 1, revision 2, whatever it might be. And then go ahead and make those edits and then listen to it again and make sure that your voiceover is matching, because the last thing you want is to have a beautifully recorded audio file and then have it be very obvious where you've made that revision choice. Okay guys, so for more performance tips, make sure you check out my videos here. Thanks so much for listening, guys. I'll see you next time.